Okay, itamexistic good day. It is the afternoon of Saturday, March 2nd, 2019. In the lunar cycle, well, we'll talk about that. But yeah, we're into March. Third month of 2019 already. Like, this year is just coming in fast and brutally traumatizing. At least for me. But that's all right. It's a good growth experience, I think. Anyway, I have some time this afternoon, so I figured I might as well do an update. It's been almost a week since my last one. Tell y'all what's going on in the life of Rye while we're still waiting for the wildlife to get out there. It's brutally cold, right? Brutally cold. And yeah, typically I would have announced this morning that we are at the end of Bitakis on the eagle moon, when the eagles and owls nest. Like I've been saying for the past few weeks in my videos, this is the time of year when the eagles and owls lay their eggs and sit their nests. However, I have not found an owl nest to follow. And moreover, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm as of this weekend, actually, I'm pretty confident to say that this has not been an eagle moon at all. This cycle that we've been in, that we're almost done with now, because the new moon starts. The new moon comes in on Wednesday, and so we should have been entering, by my count, Sa'akis on the duck moon, and that would mean that by the time the full moon comes in, we would be having goose eggs. But it's cold, like, you know, and it's been cold for a while. The polar vortex really has us. Oh, I'm sorry. I still get a real kick out of the polar vortex thing. Like, people have stopped talking about it, but when the cold initially came, they were like, polar vortex, and it just like made me think of, you know, you're in this winter squall, maybe at night, you know, you can just see the snow coming down. You know, like those scenes in Star Wars where you're passing through at almost light speed and the stars are passing. You know, you see the snowflakes coming, and all of a sudden the sky just starts twirling with them, and a big kind of tornado of snow and ice sucks you into the polar vortex. That's what the name like elicits in my mind as a vision of what the polar vortex would look like. But yeah, we're in the polar vortex, and we've been here all month, right? Since the beginning of February. We've been here for 4 weeks, and it's been brutal. You know, 20 to 30 below zero. This morning, 35 below zero. We've had 1 or 2 days, you know, where it's climbed up to as warm, as sultry as like -10. But it's been pretty darn cold. And last year, you know, when the geese started laying their eggs, it was also cold. And I was kind of thinking about this the other day. I was thinking, gee, I wonder if maybe this year again, like last year was the first time I was able to walk out on because the day that I start really looking for eggs is the full moon after the equinox, right? Easter. But, you know, the Catholics, while they retain the lunar connection, the moon connection, they make it the Sunday after the full moon, after the equinox. I'm more interested in what the birds are doing in the original ceremony, which is about collecting eggs, right? Hallmark didn't make this stuff up. Anyway, last year, I was able to walk out to the nesting island on the day of the full moon, on the night of the full moon actually, because I go out there at night. And the first eggs were indeed laid, but I was able to walk the ice to get out there. Like, there was no open water to shield them. This is why the geese use islands, is to, you know, keep the land predators like myself away. But I could walk right out on the ice. I found some egg caches. The eggs were already frozen and busted, you know. And it had a big impact, you know. It had a big impact on the geese last year, on their success of their nests. I mean, some of the late nesters definitely succeeded, you know. But those early ones, the one that were right on time where they're supposed to be, they got frozen out. And that was the first time I seen that. And so I was starting to think, with this polar vortex stuff going on, You know, it's funny. Like, all right, maybe we should. You know, there's a couple of funny names like this that I've seen being used. Right? There's the polar vortex, and then there's like the supermoon, which really just means a full moon, from what I can tell, because I see announcements of the supermoon coming up on Facebook every time there's a full moon. So I'm like, you know, why don't we just stop calling it a full moon, and from now on we'll call it the supermoon? And why don't we just stop calling this winter, and now we'll just call it the polar vortex? You know, because that's how it feels to me. It's like, no, this is winter, right? What is this polar vortex stuff? I never heard of this stuff, right? I don't need some fancy special thing to be going on. It's cold, right? It's supposed to be cold. But I started worrying about how long this cold is lasting, and its timing in terms of the lunar time, and having the eggs season coming right up, you know, a couple weeks out. It was hard to imagine that, you know, these geese were not going to be affected once more. So I started getting concerned about that and thinking more. But you know, I have been, like this week I didn't go outside much. I went for my walk and talk on Sunday. That's about it. But I've been looking, every time I've been out, you know, I've been looking at the goose behavior. And usually during an eagle moon, the owls are not my only indicator. I also have other things that I typically see during that lunar cycle, like the first emergence of insects. That hasn't happened. And the geese themselves, while they were for most of the winter in their clans, and they might start at the beginning of some still mainly with their clans, at some point in the lunar cycle, they usually pull away from their clans, and they just have their kind of family, the parents with any surviving goslings from last year's brood, and then the parents push the goslings away. You know, time for you guys to go live your own life. We're going to enter another breeding cycle, and they start getting territorial about where it is that they're going to nest already. By this time, I should be seeing goose couples at the pond doing this, and I'm not, right? If we were in Bitakisam. But I don't think that we are. I don't think that we actually are. I think what's happened is a Samitsikisam has come in, and that's the deceptive moon, right? And it's deceptive for two reasons, and what most people know why it's deceptive is because you get crazy weather during this time, like we've had with the polar vortex. You know, a lot of times the weather will go up and down during a Samitsikisam, and the Samitsikisam is basically the leap year. But it's not predictable. It doesn't happen every third year or fourth. It's not like the Gregorian calendar where they've kind of made everything static. You actually have to watch what's going on in nature to tell whether or not you're in a Samitsikisam. And by this time, I'm pretty confident that's what's going on. Like tomorrow, I am going down to Cottonwood Park with my couple of students, and we'll look for an owl nest there, and there's usually a couple of nests there. But I don't think they're going to be sitting on eggs. Right? I don't think it's time yet, because these other indicators I'm not seeing, like, you know, like the emergence of insects, like the geese coupling up, because by now they'd be coupling up and defending a territory, even on the ice, if they're going to lay eggs in 2.5 weeks. You know, they're not doing that, and so I started looking at the Gregorian calendar too. You know, like this morning, I'm looking up here at the Gregorian calendar. I'll just show you quick. See what I'm talking about. We got a big calendar on the wall here, and position the camera. Anyway, I'm looking up there, and I'm looking for, okay, it's the full moon after the equinox. That is when the geese lay their eggs. That's when the first waterfowl lay their eggs, and this is all over the northern hemisphere. It's a magic event. That's why it's all codified in, you know, even in the Catholic religion. But it's definitely celebrated everywhere, because this is the end of the winter famine, right? When those eggs come, it's the end of starvation. But when, you know, when this thing happens, when the Samitsikisam, the 13th moon, jumps in, it's painful, right? Because it's not an extension of the winter, You know, in the Blackfoot calendar, the winter's always 7 lunar cycles, no matter what. But that is it the 4th cycle? Yeah, the 5th cycle. Right, the 5th cycle of those 7 could be a eagle moon if it's a 12 moon year, or it could be a Sametsikisum if it's a 13 moon year. And if it's a Sametsikisum, then the eagle moon comes in as the 6th, and the duck moon comes in as the 7th and last, right? And what would have been the 7th, the frog moon, hops into the summer and becomes the first of 6 summer moons, where typically on other years there's only 5 summer moons. And it's the frog actually in the origin stories that said that winter is going to be 7 lunar cycles, you know. And this is where the number 7 is all important in Blackfoot cosmology. This is why, like in the story of Bołucki, Scarface, you know, the boy who goes up to the sun, when there's a bunch of cranes up there that try to kill him in the morning star. There's 7 of them, right? Because these are representative of these 7 winter lunar cycles. And in the origin of the beaver bundle, you know, it's the frog that comes in, and he's going to contribute to the bundle. And Namski, the tiger salamander, like this guy that I have here, starts teasing him and pushes him down, you know, teases him and tells him, you know, he doesn't even have a robe to give to the bundle, you know, he shouldn't even be here. Pushes him down, and the frog lands on his back, and he holds up his hands like this, and he has 4 fingers on this side and 3 on this side, and he tells them, what I'm giving to the bundle is the 7 winter moons. Every year there's going to be 7 winter moons, and during that time, all of you other animals, you're going to have thick fur, you know, plump feathers, and the humans are going to want your skins. So he's kind of cursing everybody for teasing him. But yeah, it's always 7 winter moons, and so that frog will jump over and become a summer moon. So it's not that the winter's any longer, but the starvation is longer. And, you know, we don't feel it now, contemporary life, but this is what it would have been in the past. Like, this would have been brutal, going through this cold, and everybody would have already been short on food, and then, you know, realizing that we're in the Sametsikisum. Now that means that the next lunar cycle, which is going to start on Wednesday, is going to be the eagle moon. And so now I really need to find an owl couple to watch, to see this go down. But it also extends everything out. And looking at that Gregorian calendar, you know, I was like, why? How could this be a Sametsikisum, you know? But what it is that the full moon after the equinox, just so happens that on the equinox this year is the full moon, right? So it's not a full moon after the equinox this year, would be right on the equinox. And so I was looking, you know, where's Easter? It should be the Sunday after, but it's not, right? Not on this year's calendar. It should be like March 24th should be Easter, but it's not. So I flipped over to April, and sure enough, it's that next full moon that the Catholics have marked as, you know, the Easter, the Sunday after that next full moon. So if the full moon, this is just new learning for me, if the full moon comes on the same as the equinox, like time's right with it, then you're waiting to the next full moon, basically, until the eggs are here. So we've got a stretch of waiting coming to us. And if we was in the past, this would have just been a brutal time. Hey, this is one of those winters that just would have taken people, you know, taken some people out for sure. But yeah, I've understood that now. So we are in the Sametsikisum, and we have been all along this past moon, and this week we'll enter into Pitakisum, the eagle moon. So that's that. Now what else? Well, I don't know. I guess might as well move past the heavy stuff first, just like last week, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of heavy stuff to report this week. As far as the home life goes, I'm rogue. I don't even have a home. No, I'm kidding. Most nights I'm here at Chelsea's place, and 1 or 2 nights a week I'm trying to spend, over at Mahoney's house and visiting, and really trying when I'm there to just have real quality time. Like, the last couple of months when I've went to visit there, and if I've stayed for a night or something, yeah, we're both in the house together, but we're not really doing anything together. So we're trying to change that while I'm there. Put away my cell phone and stuff, and just really try to spend time doing something together. And I'm going to be going over there tonight. Tonight might be a little bit difficult to give my attention where it needs to be, because there's some really good UFC fights going on tonight, but we'll see. Maybe Mahoney will want to watch those with me. We've been watching their, what is it? Some kind of Precinct 99 or something. It's or Brooklyn 99. That's what it is. This kind of comedy cop show together, which is pretty funny. But yeah, not a whole lot is new and changing. Work-wise, pretty much the same. Hey, this week was actually busier than I've had in several weeks. I did have one skunk that got caught this week, and so I did the catch and release. He was lucky that it wasn't on a super cold 30 below night or something like that, but he wasn't happy with me, especially after when I went to release him. I kind of got impatient and shook him out, and he just kind of plowed face first into the snow. But that's the first real skunk movement I've had for a little bit. Most of my week work-wise has been involved in teaching or meetings and stuff like this. On Monday I took a trip up to the Beethoven family school in Calgary, which is an indigenous grade school, mostly Blackfoot students, and they're looking at having a sundial in their front area in front of their school. Now their school casts actually a lot of shadow on that area, but there is a section kind of off in the corner where it gets a lot more sunlight, and so I put some ideas at them about how maybe they could use almost like a teepee frame design, and incorporate some other elements into it, so that there'll be things to talk about even when it's shady, as far as different conceptions of time relative to the sun and the moon and this kind of a thing. So that's kind of a neat little project. And then the rest of the week I was in classrooms, and I brought Oscar around to some of them. Oscar has been traveling with me this week. He's still with me, and I've brought Pineapple and Gomez, my ball python, and red-tailed boa, to different classrooms this week, and playing my ecology game with the students and stuff. Something really cool happened in my ecology game this week, in one of the classrooms. Typically how this game works is I bring in kind of a magic bag, an old doctor's bag, this black bag, and I ask them, what's an ecosystem? And we get around to talking about what an ecosystem is, and then I'm like, okay, so what's the main exchange that goes on between the members of this ecosystem? There's lots of different exchanges, but what is the primary one? And we talk about eventually the energy exchange through feeding off one another, right? And where is the original source of all this energy? And so we get to the sun, and once we've identified a sun, whichever student identified the sun as the primary source of the energy, he becomes the sun, and so he's in charge of the energy for the game. And so I give him this week I was using Skittles, so I give him a big bag of Skittles, and those would be sugar, right, the energy. And so then I ask him, okay, so the sun is radiating energy out into space, and we're a planet here, and somehow we take that light and convert it into this sugar. How does that happen? So we get to photosynthesis, and then we, select some plants from among the students. They're going to play the plant roles. So the sun goes over and distributes them, Skittles. Every time somebody gets Skittles in the game, they get to eat one, but the rest is in play, the energy, and then and they have to identify, what kind of plant they are from our local ecosystem, and then we'll say, okay, where does the energy go from that? So you get some animals that feed off of those particular species of plants, and they get into the game, and so large part of the classroom gets to play an active role in the game. And eventually we have a Mother Earth that comes in, that's part of the game, because some of the energy is in the soil, and not only in the soil, but deep below, because once we get a human being into the game, the human is tapping oil, the human is killing animals and plants without eating them. The human is, taking a lot of energy and just keeping it to himself, because we don't give back. In our culture, there's no give back. There's only a take less, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle. That's all take less. So the human is taking, and then and then normally at some point after the human has had a little bit of a romp through that ecosystem, we ask the question, okay, what's going to happen if we keep playing this game, right? The human is just going to get richer and richer in the jelly beans or Skittles or whatever we're using as energy, and he's not going to give much back, because we don't give back our bodies when we die even, for the most part, although Lethbridge just passed a bylaw or something. They just opened a section of the cemetery to shroud burials, which is cool, right? So, but it's not the norm. The norms are cremation, where fire gets to eat the energy, or the typical coffin burial where the energy is just locked in a vault, right, waiting for the resurrection or whatever. So we don't give our bodies back that way. We don't give our waste back. What we do is for the most part, we put it through the treatment so that we can separate the water from our waste. We put the water back into the system, take the waste, and then let some bacteria have their way with the waste and turn it into a fertilizer that then we can recycle back into our crops that we're either going to eat or feed to our animals. So we're not really giving back the waste, although we are using it, into our food and into our into our food, basically. So that's usually how the game goes. But this time in playing the game, we were fortunate for two things. One student chose to be a beaver, which brought on a whole lot of other things that I was able to add to the game. So I think I'm going to try to lead people into that beaver role in the future, because then I was able to talk about, keystone species and what's going on there, and how we've become, in a sense, like we are a keystone species ourselves, but not a very nice one. Like everything is dependent on us to some extent at this point. But in a negative way, not like the beaver. The way that the beaver is a keystone species is that everything that they do in their life helps others thrive, and even creates environments for species to be there that wouldn't be able to be there. They foster biodiversity, and they help that diversity thrive. Whereas, we've had, at least since the beginning of our use of fossil fuels, right, we've been having a seriously negative impact, where we're actually, decreasing the biodiversity and really making others struggle in order to get along with us. So that was kind of a cool interplay, having the beaver come in, because that helps. And then another student asked, and this is the first time this has happened, he says, "Can I be death?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting. You want to be death?" Okay, because we have a earth, right? We already have a earth, a soil. But what if we did play with a death? So I let him play the death. And so we started asking, okay, how does this work, right? Well, death is gonna touch us all. Like, this is the end game. We're all in it. Eventually we're gonna die, right? Death is gonna touch us all. But whether it takes our energy or not is a different story, because typically it doesn't. right? So when he goes to get, like he takes somebody out, does he get to collect their energy? Probably not. Most of the time when death touches a living being, that energy then gets dispersed back into the system because it kills something, and then the decomposers take it apart, right? It goes back into the life system. However, where death does actually do something is with human beings, right? Because we don't give our stuff back into the system. So when death touches us, maybe death does get our energy, right? We're just giving our energy to death. And we're the only ones in this weird way, right? Because if we're burning ourselves into ashes, or if we're entombing ourselves, and putting all kinds of noxious, chemicals into the body to help it preserve and not decay, we're giving our energy to death. That's where our energy is. So I thought that was very interesting. I might keep energy in the game. I think I will, because it shows something that's really different about us. So that was a cool learning experience through the game this week, and it's going to make a difference in the future gaming. But yeah, that's been what my kind of work week and home life has been like. So far as our animals go, there's really not a whole lot to report as new. Oscar's with me, like I said. Charlie's doing fine. I get lots of questions about Charlie. Charlie's doing good. Still in his brumation like we saw last week. Hasn't eaten yet, hasn't shed, but that's going to happen, and things are going to pop for him. The tiger salamander, on the other hand, is not in brumation anymore like we saw again in the video last week. He's eating crickets and getting noticeably fatter. He's just a little monster at this point. All the snakes are good. All the dogs are good. Been going over there getting dog love and magpie love and all of that. So all the animals are fine, and all of them are healthy. Only one who's not so healthy is me. My health this week took kind of a hit. I don't have any of the immunities built up against the kind of microbes that are floating around in our daycares, in our elementary schools. But being exposed to kids that are in that environment now, the other week these guys all got sick. They had a bad cough. I needed to stay home from school one day, taking some medicine and all this kind of stuff. Some symptom depressants at least. And I wasn't getting it, but this week, one day, I think it was was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Anyway, middle of the week, this thing hit me, right? I woke up, I had a sore throat with that kind of like, just that bad feeling in the throat, like there's bad sickness coming. I don't know what to call it. It's not an itch, it's not a soreness, but it's just something bad. And then in my sinuses, they're all blocked up in here, like a lot of pressure from my sinuses being blocked. And I thought I was in for some trouble, I woke up that day, I was like, oh, I don't feel good. This is not gonna be nice. This is gonna last for who knows how long. I might even get pneumonia. I'm having all these thoughts because I was coughing up, some stuff that didn't look nice. Looked like I already had an infection going on. So I was worried, because all the stress that I've had too, added on to being exposed to this, could have taken me anywhere, I was worried. But to my surprise, it was like one night sleep and it was gone. Hey, my body just kicked its ass and got it out of there. And I was surprised and I was happy. It made me feel good. It made me feel like even with everything that's gone on, and all the quick weight loss and all the anxiety and everything, somehow I'm still strong enough that a decent cold catches on and I'm just able to kick it out 24 hours. So that was pretty cool. At the same time though, I have been feeling a little bit old, some mean lady made some comments on my last week's video. She just went on a rage. I don't know how many of you saw that, because I think she took that thing down after I responded to it. But anyway, she was mad. She's mad about all the stuff that's going on in my personal life, and she decided to kind of like try to hurt me with words. And one of the things that she said, one of her jabs was, you know, what are you, twice her age with Chelsea? I'm not twice Chelsea's age, right? But it got me thinking. I'm like, I wonder how people perceive this, because I've seen couples like this myself, and I've judged them. You know, the much older guy with the younger woman, you know. And so I started thinking, yeah, you know, Chelsea's mom and dad aren't even probably more than 5-6 years older than me. So there is that, and I wonder how people look at it. And then I started looking at at myself, and I don't know. I feel like there's symptoms, old people symptoms, you know? Like, yeah, there's some gray hair and stuff, but it's also like I can't read, you know? I'm doing this thing, like on packaging. Like, look at this little writing on here. There's no way I'm going to be able to read that. I can't hold it far enough away or close enough to even read it. And I'm too proud yet to buy the old man reading glasses or the magnifying glass. But it's becoming a real problem. Like I'm getting in situations where I need to read something small, and I just can't do it, you know? There's that. My hearing's going, you know? Like, all the senses are taking a hit, I guess. But the hearing's, you know, I've noticed it, because Chelsea will say something to me, and it's like, I'll have to ask her 3 or 4 times to repeat herself sometimes, because, you know, I can't hear her. And, you know, I got aches and pains. I wake up all stiff, you know. I put on some, you know, stinky ointment stuff. So, you know, one day Chelsea's like, oh yeah, I smell the old man, right? I think I put like Vicks or something in my nose, or I don't know. But it's just that, you know, association of muscle relaxing ointments with the elderly. Yeah, you know, there's things, I forget things. The worst, and this is I hadn't noticed this before, and I don't know how long it's been developing, but it scares me. I've been experiencing this, like, I don't even know what to call it. It's like dreaming when I'm still awake late at night, going already into dream, and then giving voice to what's going on in the dream. You know, waking voice. I'm mixing my dream world with reality, and I'm talking about it. And, you know, like we might be watching a show, and I'm into the characters of the show and what they're doing, and then I start dreaming, and I don't even notice it. Like, I'm still awake, but somehow my mind is dreaming in the background or some such. And then I start talking like, oh, we're going to have to watch out for those guys. Keep a good eye on them, you know? And Chelsea will be like, what are you talking about? I'm totally mixing reality with what's going on in my dream world. And then when she asks the questions, then I'll notice, and I'll be like, oh, I think I was dreaming, you know? And it's a weird thing, because it scares me. I start thinking, I wonder if this is how, like, dementia starts, right? I can't distinguish between my mind's fantasies and reality. And it could be bad, you know? Maybe something bad is happening to me. Maybe I'm losing my marbles. I don't know. But it's definitely a new thing. Well, I don't know if it's new, because I didn't used to stay up late having conversations with Mahoney, so I don't know, like, if I was going into that mode before. But since I've been here, I've definitely had, you know, I've had several experiences now where I've caught myself dream talking like this. I don't know what it means. One thing that's not going away up here, not yet anyway, is my ability to scamper. Basically to problem solve. I say scamper because it's a kickback from when I was a teenager. I was in this Odyssey of the Mind, which is it's a competition among talented and gifted kids, right? And you form a little team, and they give you a problem to solve. Usually it involves making something, creating something on a limited budget with some rules and stuff, some obstacles in the way, to seeing if you can create whatever you need to create to solve this particular problem. I remember, one year we built a hovercraft, for instance, on only like $150 budget, using Electrolux vacuum cleaner engines. But anyway, we used to have this thing where we'd talk about SCAMPER as an acronym. It was substitute, combine, amplify, multiply. I can't remember what the P or the E are, and then rearrange. And these basically like different ways to think. If you got a problem you need to solve, okay, can you look at it from these different angles, and what can you do? So, there have been problems. There's all like this whole 2 months has been a problem in many respects, but I've also got these little micro problems that I've been dealing with. I've been still making my puzzle, coming along with the puzzle. It's a difficult puzzle, by the way. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm losing my puzzle in skills, but I have been noticing like how I go through the whole process of working with a jigsaw puzzle. I usually try to start with like kind of like the outline. If I've turned all the pieces, get all the pieces face up, and then try to find the frame pieces, start put together the frame. And once I find the frame, then I find some subject matter that's easy to pick out, the patterns on the pieces for, and then I collect those and put those in place. And then I start looking at the pieces that are more difficult. Eventually I get down to where it's individual pieces, where I'm looking at, okay, I've got a slot that kind of looks like this and has these kind of colors mixed in, and so I've got enough pieces already put together that I can actually eyeball the rest of what's there and try to find the pattern on the individual piece that I need. It breaks down to that individual level once you get so far. But anyway, been doing the jigsaw puzzle. Just this morning, I needed to fix a hole in my pocket. I've really only got 2 pairs of pants that I wear, mostly just one pair. They're these kind of lined cargo pants from Costco that are really good for the winters and stuff. I've got a black pair and an olive green pair, and I wear the olive green pair all the time, and I kind of save the black pair for more important occasions. Not that it's fancy wear or anything, but I like those lined. If I'm gonna wear pants, it's because I need to be warm. So usually, so I wear those. I like those lined pants. I could buy more of them. It would probably be good. I used to have more of them, but right now I've just got the 2. Anyway, the pocket that I mostly use for my keys and my pocket knife and all that stuff, that pocket on my right hand side got a hole in it. One day Mahoney gave me, when I was sick, she gave me a couple of fisherman's friends, and I put them in that pocket, and they just like went down the hole and ended up in my ankle somewhere. So I said, okay, I gotta fix that pocket. And fortunately, I had a sewing kit from Battle Box, like this survival sewing kit, in my backpack. And so it had all the essentials that I needed in there, the needle and the thread and little scissors and all that stuff. And so I sewed up my pocket. It's all good to go now. Yeah, sometimes the stuff from Battle Box really is helpful, and actually it's something that I really miss. I really miss that, looking forward to receiving the Battle Boxes and all that stuff. I saw on video, what they gave away with the last one, which was some cool stuff, including an axe and all this kind of thing. They've started their new year, new gear, and so they're really focused on not putting theme, but just giving you some cool stuff. And I'm missing out. But it's the way it is. I'm too broke right now. Any case, but my big claim to fame for as far as overcoming a problem was one day the toilet got clogged here. you know, got clogged. One of the kids was using just too much toilet paper and really clogged it up, and there's no plunger, right? Chelsea wasn't here. I messaged her. I was like, is there a plunger on? No plunger. So I did a quick YouTube search and came up with a DIY. And it was, you take a plastic bottle, right? So I took this like 1 liter plastic bottle, you know, cut the bottom off of it, and then you can use it just like a plunger. So went in and plunged the toilet with it. Sure enough, worked like a charm. So now that's our plunger here. It's sitting under the sink, waiting for the next time that the toilet has a problem. So yeah, little bit of MacGyverism coming into play, but it was a fun event anyway, and it was neat to learn that little trick. You know, if you don't have a problem, you don't learn very much in life. You know, you need problems. Not that I like, you know, the drama or anything like that, but if you want to grow, you know, if you want to grow, you need a little bit of adversity. So that's pretty much been my week. I think I'll keep it as short as this has been, which hasn't been short at all. And update you again before too long.